I have a whole kind of philosophy that has come up over the last 20 plus years about kind of my imaginings of my relationship with God. And it has to do with windows, you know, so I'll think of this life as what I have, but if I look at a window, I know that outside of that window, and this is just how I imagine this, outside of this window is eternal, is God, right? So I can put my head around and kind of peek around and look. I don't ever get to see everything, but I know it's there. Well, hello, Steve.
Hey, Steve.
How the heck are you?
I'm doing unbelievable.
Well, that's terrific. Fantastic. I think he might be lying, but that's fantastic. I'm sure he actually is doing unbelievable at the core, right?
Yeah.
I am too. Welcome to the Steve and Steve Show.
Yeah, welcome. Thanks for hitting play. And if this is the first time you're discovering us, do us a great big favor and hit that subscribe button. This is my friend Steve Wastenberg, and I'm Steve Walsh, and this is the Steve and Steve Show. And we're two guys that have lots of wisdom that we want to share with you, our audience.
Yeah, we do. I mean, I'm not saying we're geniuses or anything, but you know what? You probably have a ton of wisdom you could share if you wanted to. We just happen to sit in front of a video and do it.
Yeah.
So,
and the idea is that they're everyday topics and topics that we hope that as the audience you pick up a nugget and it improves your life in some way, or maybe it's an entertaining.
Yeah, sometimes entertaining.
Improvement in your life.
Sometimes it's pretty heavy. Like, I'm still reeling a little bit from last week's, the human trafficking one that was honestly just one of our best videos out there. If you haven't heard that one, go back in the thread and listen to that one. It was last week. And it was called Human Trafficking. But man, I mean, it's astounding, both of us. Even though the gentleman that we interviewed is a good friend of mine, and I've talked to him quite a bit about it, the things that came out in there was like, I think both you and I were going like, huh?
Yeah, there was definitely some, I don't, kind of a wake up statistics.
Yeah.
Just some good knowledge about human trafficking, but he does a lot of work for anti-human trafficking.
That's exactly it. Yeah.
And if you're curious, if you don't even know what we're talking about, do it. I'm going to put the link down below.
Back on this, yeah.
Yeah, and
Go
then,
listen to it.
and then you can take a look at it. Even some of the stuff that we put in the links below that Jonathan provided us, the movies and the videos that were part of that.
Awesome.
Were just eye-opening, and it's really an important topic, especially today. And if you just want to encourage you to go back, look at that video as well. So
today, though, it's simplicity. That's why we have water here. So we're going to drink water on this because it's how do you get rid of the noise in your life?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, noise. So one of the books, Steve, that I read was Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. Yeah. There's a story.
Think and Grow Rich, right?
Yeah, that's the author of Think and Grow Rich. So there's a backstory of that book itself, but particularly in that book, Outwitting the Devil, he talks about how the enemy, the devil, has distracted us with noise. And so it's all this, you come home and there's stuff on the TV.
Of course, when he wrote this, we're talking like the 1930s, right?
Right. Yeah,
there weren't any TVs.
There wasn't TV, but he talks about
noise.
he was talking about the noise. So there's back then it would have been like the radio and maybe some of the news articles. You get noise when you're at work, and the noise there is just people calling, and you're not able to focus on what you really need to be doing, but they're calling because they have needs, and there's just a lot of things going on. You come home, and maybe the kids they've got stuff going on with schoolwork. Maybe they've got drama in their lives that you got to deal with.
You got to cook dinner,
laundry, the dogs, the cats. I mean, there's just a lot of things that calls for our attention.
So it's like constant and never-ending distractions. Would you say?
Yeah.
That is? And it seems like you almost like it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. You get rid of this one and you go and get another one, and you go and get, and they just start piling on sometimes and create a lot of anxiety.
Right.
So what kind of noise? Well, I'll ask you. What kind of noise do you have in that? You know, that you could give some concrete example maybe in your life. I certainly have some as well.
Yeah. So a lot of noise is certainly the political scene, right? So you go out to whatever, Twitter, Facebook, even Instagram is another one, and
TikTok. Although TikTok maybe not so long.
Well, I'm not a TikTok guy, but it's the stuff is out there, and it's just distracting, and it just fills your life, and there's no real, I don't know, fulfillment or meaning or anything like that. But the noise is there, right? It's a distraction. But what is that distraction keeping us from?
Exactly.
So that's so the noise is there. Let's recognize that as the elephant in the room. But what are we missing out on?
So, is that a question for me?
Yeah, well, it's a question for everyone to kind of think about it, but certainly a question that you could.
Well, since it's kind of a question right here, I'm not going to go long into this, but right before we actually did this video, you and I were both looking outside on the patio, and we saw a hummingbird. By the way, hummingbirds don't really come around this area that I've seen. This is the first one that I've seen this close. Right on the patio, going up to the flowers that were hanging there and pecking through all of these. And both of us stopped. The noise went away and we were focused on watching, would you agree, this hummingbird for maybe 30 seconds or so.
Yeah.
That is an example, I think, of stopping the noise and looking at what is happening right in front of you. Would you agree?
Yeah. So what I do, because there's a lot of noise and there's a lot going on, and you're just with the daily activities, even for me at work, just go. As soon as I sit down at my computer and start working, it's from one conference call to the next, and then email, and there's a lot going at me, right? And I'm not stopping and taking a look and going, hey, what's you wouldn't
even see that.
No, I wouldn't see the hummingbird in my office, right? But what I like to do for lunch is get my lunch and go sit on my back patio and enjoy being outside. And we do have hummingbirds that come around our house, but it's the enjoyment of stopping, not thinking about what's going on at work, not thinking about what I'm going to do tomorrow or later today or whatever, but it's stopping and enjoying the actual presence. And there's a lot
that moment.
At that moment. So there's flowers, there's birds, there's trees. I happen to the back of my house is backs up to a public golf course. So there's people that come through with their carts and they're teeing off right there. It's just enjoying it. And when I get into that, there's a little bit more of a calming piece of what's going on. So that's where I think when you're able to stop and enjoy life, that's when that noise goes away and it doesn't matter. But when that noise just gets louder and louder, you have a tendency to miss out on the cool things that are just in front of you, right? Like noticing that hummingbird just a while ago. If you were so focused on the noise, all the stuff that's going on, you would have missed that the hummingbird was in your backyard.
You looked outside and just looked out while you're thinking about the 64 different things you got with debt, with what I got to do next, with my house, with the building, with the whatever it is, and the hummingbird's out there flying right in front of you, and you're looking out at the dry grass and thinking about all the mess, the noise in here. Even, I'll give you this, I've got a quick little story about, both you and I have an hour of prayer in the morning, right? So our attempt is to always, the first thing in the morning, get up and pray for an hour. And we have a whole series of things that we go through. But even in the midst of that prayer, Steve, I don't know, I'm not going to speak for you, but there's noise.
Yeah.
Like there's just noise in my head about getting through this. And just the other day, I was in the midst of it, and I have a whole kind of philosophy that has come up over the last 20 plus years about kind of my imaginings of my relationship with God. And it has to do with windows, so I'll think of this life as what I have, but if I look at a window, I know that outside of that window, and this is just how I imagine this, outside of this window is eternal, is God, right? So I can put my head around and kind of peek around and look. I don't ever get to see everything, but I know it's there, and it's this really interesting kind of meditation that I've done. And I was in the midst of that, and in my room, I'm praying, and I look up, and in the mirror, there is a partial reflection of the window. And in that window, there was blue sky. So I'm looking in the mirror at it reflecting a window that's pointing blue sky, and I'm saying, Lord, I see it, and it was a cut off, and I see a piece of blue sky there, and I know that's you, and I can see that's you there, and I really want to get to you. How can I really get to you in this? Because I thank you for being there. And I kid you not, Steve, I heard a voice as clear as a bell that said, "Oh, why don't you get up and go outside?" And it hit me over the head like, right, I'm seeing this blue sky in this little mirror, and if I kind of turn to go look at the window so I can actually see the blue sky, there's a head buried in front of me, so I couldn't see it. But I said, that's exactly what I'm going to do. I got up, I left, I walked outside. I finished my prayer, but I went outside, and I looked at a morning sunrise that was clouds and blue sky. It was the most beautiful thing. And it wasn't this little tiny corner of a piece of a window. It was in all its majesty.
Yeah.
So it was like, even in the midst of prayer, Steve, that noise was keeping me from what really I was to see.
What you were missing out.
It was pretty interesting.
Yeah. Well, I think it's, we don't have to do much to have that noise in our life. It's this there. And what we do have to do, though, we have to be aware of that we're being distracted and we've got this noise, and be intentful of, okay, I'm going to actually go do something that I can be present for, just even if it's for 5-10 minutes.
Exactly.
And enjoy. Like, as we were talking earlier, I was taking a sip of the water. And just that simple sip of the water, to actually enjoy how it feels and what it's doing, and it's simple. But when I focus on that water, touching my mouth and going down, that being present at that moment, it just shuts down that noise.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. But so I don't want to keep this too long, because I think this is a really simple concept.
It is a simple concept. So so we've kind of touched on it, but how do you get out of the noise, Steve, in an everyday life?
But I was just being intentful of enjoying your presence.
So, like that water that you just described, as you're drinking it, actually realize what you're doing.
Yeah. Well, think about, like, if you have a meal, right? A lot of times we eat breakfast, we eat lunch, we eat dinner, right? And we might have the TV on, or there's people and they're talking, and then, we're at a restaurant. There's all types of noise going on there, but we just eat. We really don't stop and be present for what we're doing.
Each bite.
Yeah.
We're looking to get done so we can get to the next thing, because this is something we do. Or we're looking at multitasking, right? I'm going to be very efficient, and I'm going to get my phone, I'm going to eat my meal, I'm going to talk to my kids, and you're doing 10 different things, which none of which actually are, how does that water feel when I actually drink it?
Right. Yeah, so I think it's the intent the intent of being aware, being intentful of your time. But I'm gonna challenge everyone, just take 5 minutes out today and be very intentful and be present of what's around you and how do you feel and what's there and what can you see and what do you hear and feel, and don't worry about all the other stuff that's going on in the world, and just be present.
And I agree. And sometimes, you might be listening to this now and you go, yeah, I'm going to do that. And then you'll forget and you'll, multitask and do all the different things you are. But what if you go out after this and you pick one thing that you're going to do each day for a small amount? You mentioned Dave. Why don't you tell that? Because Dave does something that I think both impressed you and I. A friend of ours does something that really impressed us, and he's put it into his life.
Yeah,
and let me tell you, this guy is busy all the time.
It's a daily routine, right? Mm-hmm. So, and I think a lot of us could do that because a lot of people spend a lot of money at like the Starbucks and other coffee shops,
mm-hmm.
and they get those nice drinks, right? Well, what Dave does, and he made it sound, he didn't sell it. He just made it sound so enticing,
right?
That I was like, man, can I come and sit with you? So what he does is he gets his cup of coffee and then he goes back.
He goes and makes it first. He grinds the beans.
Well, yeah, I mean, regardless of that, right?
Okay.
Because it's his coffee.
Doesn't need to be. It's simple.
He goes outside and he enjoys the morning atmosphere.
The sunrise.
The sunrise. The morning feels a lot different than the evenings, right? So, and it's that sunrise hour.
And he just sits.
He sits there and enjoys the coffee, right? So if you're spending $5 on a cup of coffee, wouldn't you want to just be present for that cup of coffee?
Really, really good point,
right?
Yeah.
Enjoy the $5 cup of versus my 50-cent, brew at home coffee, right? Which I do enjoy, and every once in a while I'll do what Dave does, but he does it on a daily basis.
Yep.
And goes outside, and he's just present.
Yeah.
At the enjoyment of that morning hour and his cup of coffee.
And it sets up his day.
Yeah.
Where I think there's a lot of other things during the day then that he starts to recognize. So again, you're probably going to forget about this stuff, a lot of the different things. Hey, be present in the moment of wherever you're. Make sure you look at the hummingbird. But if you can put something out there that you do, just you start right now, that you're going to do, whatever it is, you figure out what it is and start putting it in as a routine, right, daily. That will lead to a whole bunch more presence in the moment.
Yeah, just start small.
Start small.
And then enjoy that piece.
Wow, this was simple. This was a simple one.
It was simple.
Hey, you know what? Right now we're going to do this. Did you hear that?
I did. Now I have to go to the bathroom.
Cheers. Simple. Subscribe.
Yeah. Thanks for watching. We hope you enjoyed this show. Certainly go back and review some of our other recordings. We're over 30. I think this is 30, 31, 32, 30, something like that, recordings.
32 weeks, people.
So it's 31. This is 31.
Are you sure?
Yep.
All right, 31
our
weeks.
Anti-human trafficking one was 30.
30. All right.
So hit subscribe. Please share, comment.
Tell your friends and family.
You enjoyed this. Hopefully, if you didn't stop and shut off the noise, then hit pause, hit the back, start reset button, and you can be present and rewatch the video.
That sounds good. All right.
Okay, Steve.
We'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Enjoy.